For more than a decade, the world has believed the mystery was already solved. Every documentary, every museum exhibit, every science video repeated the same name: Titanoboa, the undisputed largest snake to ever exist. A prehistoric monster estimated to stretch over 40 feet long and weigh more than a ton. A creature so massive it became legendary almost overnight. Titanoboa wasn't just another fossil discovery, it completely changed the way people imagined prehistoric life. And for years, nobody questioned it. Because according to mainstream science, nothing larger had ever been found. But what if that story is incomplete? What if the true king of giant snakes wasn't discovered in South America, but hidden beneath the ancient rock layers of India? Because in 2023, paleontologists uncovered something that quietly shook the scientific world. A snake so massive that it may have rivaled, or even surpassed, Titanoboa itself. Its name was Vasuki Indicus, and if the fossil estimates are correct, the largest snake ever discovered may not be Titanoboa anymore. That possibility changes everything, because suddenly, the story we thought was finished isn't finished at all. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the discovery of Vasuki Indicus may be one of the most important prehistoric discoveries in recent history. The rise of Titanoboa. When Titanoboa fossils were first discovered in Colombia, it was one of the biggest paleontological stories in the world. Before that moment, giant snakes existed mostly in myths and exaggerated jungle stories. People knew large snakes existed today, anacondas, pythons, boas, but nobody imagined prehistoric snakes could reach truly monstrous sizes. Then scientists uncovered fossil vertebrae from a snake, unlike anything ever seen before. The estimates were staggering. Titanoboa was believed to exceed 40 feet in length. Its weight may have reached over 1,200 kilograms. To put that into perspective, this snake was longer than many buses and heavier than some compact cars. It instantly became famous. Science documentaries called it the largest snake in history. Museums built life-sized models. Television specials recreated its terrifying power. And over time, Titanoboa became more than a fossil. It became a symbol of prehistoric gigantism itself. Whenever people talked about giant snakes, Titanoboa became the reference point. For years, nobody came close. And honestly, at the time, that conclusion made perfect sense. The fossil evidence supported it. There were no major challengers. Scientists believed they had already discovered the upper limit of snake evolution. But science has a habit of changing the moment new evidence appears. And in this case, the new evidence came from thousands of miles away, in India. The discovery beneath Gujarat. In 2023, researchers studying ancient rock formations in Gujarat, India, uncovered fossil remains belonging to an enormous prehistoric snake. At first glance, the discovery didn't seem world-changing. But then scientists started analyzing the vertebrae, and almost immediately, they realized these bones belonged to something gigantic. The snake was eventually named Vasuki Indicus, inspired by the legendary serpent Vasuki from Indian mythology. But it wasn't the name that shocked researchers. It was the size. Initial estimates suggested Vasuki Indicus may have measured anywhere between 36 and 47 feet long. That upper estimate immediately caught attention, because if accurate, Vasuki Indicus could rival Titanoboa directly, possibly even exceed it. And unlike fantasy stories or internet myths, this wasn't speculation from random people online. This was based on actual fossil evidence published by paleontologists. Suddenly, Titanoboa no longer stood alone at the top. For the first time in years, another snake had entered the conversation, a real contender for the title of largest snake in Earth's history. How scientists estimate snake size. Now this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Most people imagine paleontologists discovering a complete fossil skeleton and simply measuring it from head to tail. But with prehistoric snakes, that almost never happens. Snake bones are extremely fragile. Over millions of years, most skeletons break apart, decay, or disappear completely before fossilization can occur. That means scientists often work with only isolated vertebrae. And both Titanoboa and Vasuki Indicus were estimated using these fossilized vertebrae. Researchers compare ancient snake bones to modern species like boas and anacondas, then use scaling methods to estimate total body size. It's a sophisticated process, but it still involves interpretation. And that matters, because even slight differences in body proportions can dramatically change the final estimates. In other words, the famous 40-foot Titanoboa figure was never a perfectly exact number. It was an estimate based on available evidence. And now Vasuki Indicus enters that same scientific territory with vertebrae large enough to suggest similar, or potentially greater, dimensions. That's why the discovery matters so much. Not because scientists definitively proved Vasuki was bigger, but because the fossil evidence suggests it absolutely could have been. And once that possibility exists, the entire conversation changes. Why Vasuki Indicus feels different? What makes Vasuki Indicus fascinating is how unexpectedly it appeared. Titanoboa became a global sensation almost immediately after its discovery. Media coverage exploded, documentaries followed. The snake became world famous. But Vasuki Indicus arrived much more quietly. Despite potentially rivaling the largest snake ever discovered, most people have never heard its name. There were no giant Hollywood documentaries, no massive museum campaigns, no worldwide obsession, and that silence feels strange considering the scale of the discovery. Because if a newly discovered snake may have exceeded Titanoboa, you'd expect it to dominate science headlines everywhere. Yet outside paleontology circles, Vasuki Indicus barely entered public conversation. But the fossils still exist, and the estimates remain real, which means the possibility hasn't disappeared. If anything, it has only made the mystery bigger. The world of prehistoric giants. To understand how something like Vasuki Indicus could exist, you have to understand the world it lived in. Ancient Earth was drastically different from today. Temperatures were warmer, humidity levels were higher, ecosystems were richer and more extreme, and those conditions were perfect for giant reptiles. Cold-blooded animals depend heavily on environmental heat. Warmer climates support faster metabolism and larger growth potential. That's one reason prehistoric ecosystems produced enormous crocodiles, giant turtles, oversized insects, and reptiles far larger than their modern descendants. Snakes were no exception. In the right conditions, evolution pushed their size to extraordinary extremes. Titanoboa proved that. And now Vasuki Indicus suggests the limit may have been even higher than we thought. If one prehistoric snake could approach 45 feet, what stopped another from reaching even larger sizes? The answer may simply be this: we haven't discovered them yet. The forgotten giants before Titanoboa. What's fascinating is that history has already repeated itself once before. Long before Titanoboa became famous, another snake held the crown. Its name was Gigantophus. Gigantophus lived roughly 40 million years ago in Africa and was once considered the largest snake ever discovered. For decades, it dominated scientific discussions about giant prehistoric reptiles. Then Titanoboa was discovered, and almost overnight, Gigantophus disappeared from the spotlight. Not because it was fake, not because scientists disproved it, but because something potentially larger had arrived. Now Vasuki Indicus may be doing the exact same thing to Titanoboa, and that reveals something important about science. Scientific kings only stay kings until a bigger discovery appears. Could even larger snakes exist? Here's the question that makes this topic so unsettling. If Titanoboa wasn't the final answer, and Vasuki Indicus may have rivaled or exceeded it, then how certain are we that we've already discovered the largest snake that ever lived? The truth is, the fossil record is incredibly incomplete. Entire ecosystems have vanished without leaving clear evidence behind. Millions of species likely existed without ever fossilizing in ways humans could discover, and snake fossils are especially rare. That means Earth's prehistoric history still contains enormous gaps. There may have been giant snakes we've never found, species larger than Titanoboa, larger than Vasuki Indicus, creatures that ruled ancient swamps and forests millions of years before humans existed. And somewhere beneath unexplored rock formations, their remains may still be waiting. That possibility keeps the mystery alive, because science only knows what it has uncovered so far, and every new fossil changes the story. Titanoboa versus Vasuki Indicus. So which snake was actually larger? Right now, there's no absolute answer. Titanoboa remains the most famous giant snake ever discovered. Its fossil evidence is extensive, and its scientific legacy is enormous. But Vasuki Indicus introduced something unexpected: competition. Its estimated size range overlaps directly with Titanoboa's. Some reconstructions place it slightly smaller, others place it potentially larger. And because both estimates rely heavily on vertebral scaling, uncertainty remains on both sides, which means the title of largest snake ever is no longer completely secure. For years, Titanoboa held that crown uncontested. Now the debate is open again, and that alone makes Vasuki Indicus one of the most important prehistoric discoveries in recent memory. Why this discovery matters. This story isn't really just about snakes. It's about how quickly scientific certainty can change. For years, people spoke about Titanoboa as if the mystery was solved forever. Case closed. Largest snake ever discovered. End of discussion. Then one discovery in India suddenly complicated everything. That's how science works. Every fossil is a clue. Every excavation has the potential to rewrite history. And Vasuki Indicus may have done exactly that. Because now we know something important. Titanoboa may not have been alone at the top. And perhaps never was. The real mystery. The most fascinating part of this story isn't which snake was bigger. It's realizing how little we truly know about prehistoric Earth. Humanity has explored only a fraction of the planet's fossil record. Entire regions remain poorly studied. Ancient rock layers still hide undiscovered species. And every year, paleontologists uncover animals that completely reshape our understanding of life's history. So, maybe the true king of giant snakes has already been found in India, or maybe an even larger creature still waits underground somewhere, hidden beneath millions of years of stone. Because prehistoric Earth was stranger, larger, and far more extreme than most people realize. And discoveries like Vasuki Indicus prove that the story is still unfolding. The age of giant snakes may be gone, but their mysteries are far from over.